I received a list of rules before boarding. 32 rules to be exact. The man who handed me the papers said they were standard safety protocols. But when I asked why rule number 8 said, "Never count the members of your team out loud," he just looked at me for a second too long and said, "You will understand when you get there." I never understood. Or rather, I understood too late. Let me start from the beginning, because if I do not tell everything in order, you will not believe what happened at the end. And I need you to believe. Not for me. It is because if this happened to me, it can happen with any other person who goes to work there. My name does not matter. What matters is that I am a systems engineer. I have 15 years of experience in extreme pressure, and when the offer appeared in my inbox, I thought it was a scam. A company called Vantagium Orbital. Salary 3 times higher than what I earned. Contract of 6 months. Location of the work, Artemis Station, Lunar Base, Sector 12. The moon. They were offering me a job on the moon. I did all the research. The company was real. The program was real. They had contract with space agencies of 3 different countries. Everything verifiable, everything documented. I signed the contract in 2 weeks. The training lasted 4 months. Survival in environment of low gravity, protocols of emergency, handling of systems of life support, communication via satellite. They taught me everything that I would need to know to survive on the moon. Everything except what really mattered. On the last day of training, a man in a gray suit entered the room without introducing himself, put an envelope in front of me, and said, "Read before sleeping tonight." When I asked who he was, he said that he was from the Department of Integration. I never saw him again. The envelope had 8 pages, small font, single spacing. On the cover, written by hand, Adaptation Protocols, Artemis Station. Confidential. And there began the rules.
The first ones were normal, completely normal. To use always the full suit outside of the habitation modules, never to move away more than 200 meters from the perimeter without companion, to verify the levels of oxygen every 45 minutes, to maintain communication with the base every hour during external excursions. It makes sense, right? The moon is a hostile environment. These rules could be in any manual of space safety. Then came rule number 5. If you wake up and the clock of the module shows a different time from your personal clock, do not comment with anyone. Adjust your personal clock to the time of the module and continue normally. I read it twice. I thought that it was some technical protocol about time zone or synchronization of systems. I wrote a mental note to ask about this later. I continued reading. Rule 6. Do not photograph the lunar surface between the coordinates 47 north and 52 north without express authorization of the base commander. This includes accidental images. Rule 7. If you hear your own voice being repeated on the internal communication channel, your own voice saying things that you did not say, turn off the receiver for exactly 3 minutes. After, turn on again. Do not document the occurred. I stopped reading. I stayed looking at this rule for a good time. Your own voice saying things that you did not say. This type of technical failure exists. Echoes in the system of communication, interferences of frequency, bugs of software. I convinced myself that it was that. I convinced myself, went to sleep, and in the next morning boarded to the moon. The trip lasted 62 hours. When the base appeared by the window of the capsule, those domes of gray metal spread over the lunar dust, I felt that mixture of fear and wonder that I imagine that everyone feels. That was real. I was really going to work on the moon. The team was composed of 6 people, including me. The commander was called Dr. Valeria, specialist in lunar geology. Then there was Fabio, engineer of communications, Sioni, doctor of the team, Rashid, responsible for the systems of energy, and Priya, who took care of the scientific equipment. 6 people. I counted mentally when we were presented. 6. I remembered Rule 8. Never count the members of your team out loud. I kept this to myself.
The first week was almost perfect. The work was exactly what I expected. Maintenance of systems, verifications of routine, technical support for the scientific experiments. The base was well equipped. The food was tolerable. The communications with the Earth functioned with a delay of a little more than 1 second. It was in the second week that the things began to seem slightly wrong. The first thing that I noticed was the clock. I wake up at 6 in the morning, time of base. They maintain a cycle of day and night artificial to preserve the circadian rhythm of the team. On Tuesday of the second week, I woke up at 6. I looked at the clock of the module, and it marked 6 hours, as always. I looked at my personal clock. 4 hours and 47 minutes. More than 1 hour of difference, from nothing. I had synchronized the two in the previous day. I remembered Rule 5. I adjusted my personal clock without commenting anything. I went to have breakfast as if nothing had happened. But Fabio was different in that day. Too quiet. I asked if he was well, and he said that yes, but continued looking to the table while he ate, as if he was trying to remember something that he had forgotten. At night, when we were going to sleep, he said to me in low voice, "Did you have the sensation today that the day was shorter?" I said that no. He nodded slowly and went to his room. In the third week, I heard my own voice on the communicator. I was doing an inspection of routine in the module of energy when the internal receiver crackled, and I heard with total clarity my own voice saying, "Do not open the east compartment." I was with my back to the east compartment in that moment. My heart stopped. I turned off the receiver. I counted 3 minutes on my clock. I turned on again. Silence. I did not document. I did not speak with anyone. But I stayed looking at the east compartment for a long time before continuing the work. I did not open. Not in that day.
The rule that nobody explained to me correctly was the number 15. Avoid to look at the Earth for periods superior to 2 consecutive minutes. If this happens accidentally, move away from the window immediately and concentrate yourself in a manual task for at least 30 minutes. I had read this rule many times and I never understood completely. Outside, the Earth appeared by the panoramic window of the principal module, blue, white, absolutely beautiful. Everyone looked. It was impossible not to look. But nobody stayed looking for much time. I asked Sioni about this discreetly, as if it was only curiosity. She said, "It has to do with psychological response to distance. To see the Earth reminds you that you are very far and can induce dissociative states." It was a good explanation, plausible, but I saw in the eyes of her that she did not believe completely in what she was saying. Rashid disappeared in the 5th week. Not at once. First he began to appear less in the meals, after in the meetings of team. When I asked to Valeria, she said that he was working in alternating shifts because of an anomaly in the system of energy. But I passed by the sector of energy 3 times in that week, and I did not see him in none of them. In the 6th week, his name disappeared from the schedule of work. When I asked to Fabio about Rashid, he looked at me as if I had said something in another language. "Rashid?" he repeated. "Who is Rashid?" I felt the ground disappear under my feet. "The engineer of energy," I said. "Rashid. He came in the same capsule that we." Fabio frowned. "Are you well? We are 5 here. We always were 5. I did not say anything more. I went to my module, closed the door, and reread rule number 8 until the words began to lose meaning in front of me. Never count the members of your team out loud. I began to write everything in a notebook of paper, not in the digital system of the base. I did not trust any more in the digital system. Paper, pen, kept under my mattress. The dates did not match anymore. I had arrived 6 weeks ago, but my notebook showed entries of only 31 days. 15 days had simply disappeared, without memory, without record, without anything. Priya stopped talking to me in the 7th week. It was not at once, it was gradual. Shorter answers, visual contact each time smaller, until that one day she simply stopped reacting when I spoke, as if I was not there. But she talked to the others normally. I was the only one who perceived the inconsistencies. I was the only one who still remembered Rashid. I began to ask myself if I was losing sanity. Environment of pressure, isolation, low gravity affecting circulation. There are dozens of medical explanations for hallucinations in space missions. But the notebook was real. The notes were real, and rule number 22, that I never had been able to interpret correctly, suddenly made total sense. If you begin to suspect that the reality around you was altered, do not demonstrate this suspicion. Continue your routines normally. Document only in physical paper. Wait. That was the instruction. Wait. But wait for what?
I broke a rule. Rule number 15. It was not planned. I was passing through the principal module late at night, when everyone slept, and the Earth was there by the window, enormous, luminous, irresistible. I sat in front of the window and stayed looking. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, and then I saw. It was not the Earth that I knew. The continents were different. Not radically different. You would need to be looking with attention like I was to notice. But the contour of South America had a curvature slightly wrong. Europe seemed compressed too much in the north-south direction, and there was a mass of land in the Pacific Ocean that should not exist. I blinked. I rubbed the eyes. I looked again. It was still there. I got up from the window so fast that I hit the knee in the metallic structure. I went to my module. I opened the notebook. I wrote everything with the hand shaking. I did not sleep that night. In the next day, I asked for a connection of video with my family on Earth. It was something that we did regularly. The base allowed calls of up to 20 minutes per week. My sister answered. She smiled when she saw me, asked how I was, talked about normal things, her work, her dog, the weather there. I listened everything. I answered normally, but I stayed looking to the window behind her the whole time. The view of the window of my sister's house showed the same street of always, the same buildings, the same trees, but the sky was wrong. Not the color. The color was right, blue with some clouds. It was the position of the sun. It was almost midday in her time, but the sun was too low, almost on the horizon, as if it was late afternoon. I did not say anything. I finished the call normally. I closed the connection.
and then I took the notebook and wrote the only conclusion that made sense, the only one that explained the clocks desynchronized, the days disappeared, Rashid that nobody remembered, the different continents, the sun in the wrong place. Either I am completely crazy, or the Earth that I am seeing from here is not the Earth from where I came.
I walked over to the panoramic window. Earth was there, blue, white, and beautiful. And as I stared at it, for the first time since I had arrived, a question crossed my mind that I had never asked before. Why, in 6 weeks, had I never seen any artificial lights on the night side of Earth? No cities, no glowing coastlines, no sign that billions of people lived down there. Just darkness. On the night side, it was nothing but complete darkness. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, opened them again. And from the corridor behind me, I heard footsteps. There were 6 sets of footsteps. But on the base, at that moment, there should only have been 5 people besides me. I didn't turn around. Not because I was paralyzed with fear, though I was, but because rule number 32, the last one, the one I had never been able to understand, was now perfectly clear in my mind. If you hear more footsteps than there are people on the base, do not turn around. Keep looking forward. Close your eyes, and remember, whoever is behind you is not what it seems. Never was. The footsteps stopped. Someone stood right behind me, and I heard a voice, my voice, whispering softly right next to my ear. You should have stopped at rule number 8.